Welcome in, everyone, to another special edition over with our good friends over at ServiceHawk Digital Media, where they soar above the competition. If you're one of the great HVAC pros or generator pros that are out there, you need to get over to our good friends over at ServiceHawk Digital Media. It's servicehawk.io. That's servicehawk.io today. Good to be here back with Lee, Justin, and the gang. Today we'll be talking about our good friends. As well, our LSU baseball team. Just kidding. But we are going to break down this Auburn series versus LSU this weekend, which seems to be and feels to be one of the better series in the SEC this weekend. I mean, when you look around the conference this weekend, you do have Georgia and Arkansas, Ole Miss and Tennessee, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. But I do think the sleeper series of this weekend is going to be LSU and Auburn. Now, last time LSU went to Auburn, I'm sure that all you remember, LSU lost 2 out of 3 to the Auburn Tigers on the road the Paul Skeens year, where you did win a national championship. So I guess you can go on the road in the SEC and lose a series and still be in the hunt and win a national title. But I want to break down this Auburn team. So listen, we got a lot that we need to discuss here in reference to Auburn. I've seen some this week. I've seen some things going on this week when number one, we've talked about baseball, whether it like Blake Weiser, no panic from you, or number two, oh man, this team still has some struggles, whatever it may be. When I look at this Auburn series, like I know a lot of people had a lot of question marks going into last week versus Oklahoma. When I look at this team and I look at LSU going into Auburn, I think I don't want to say a heavyweight fight. I think it's a really good fight for this LSU ball club. When I look at Auburn, when they have guys like Ike Irish, and we'll start here from just what Auburn does at the plate. I look at guys like Ike Irish. I look at Chase Fralick. I look at Cooper McMurray, who the big lefty first baseman, who's lost some weight, looks good. Batting average has skyrocketed since he's got a little bit more healthy here. I look at Eric Snow. I look at a guy who's related to a guy you saw against Texas in Cade Ballou, who's hitting above 300. Guys, this team can really swing it at the plate. I look at all the extra base hits that they have. Snow's got 9. McMurray's got 8. By the way, both of them are able to get it out of the ballpark in any given notice. Fralick has 8 extra base hits. Now, not a guy that necessarily will hit for a tons of power, but man, you leave it in there, he's going to get on base. He's going to see a lot of pitches. They are very, very dangerous at the plate. So I look at this Auburn series as something when you go in, and look, there's never a break in the SEC, right? Like when you go into the SEC, every weekend you pretty much know that you're just never going to get a break. Like, guys, who's the worst team in the SEC right now? Missouri, maybe? Okay, you did face them. Maybe Florida. Well, you haven't faced them yet. Everybody else that you face, whether it be Mississippi State, who took 2 or 3 from South Carolina last weekend, whether it be Texas, who's the number 1 team or should be the number 1 team in the country right now, Oklahoma, who was a top 10 team last weekend, who really battled strong against a really good Alabama team. Regardless of who it is, there's never going to be a break in this stretch of SEC teams that you're going up against. I think Auburn is a very, very solid club. Let's go to it. Let's talk about some of the hitters here. We talked about this a little bit last night. I think the top 3 guys that you'll see for Auburn at the plate this weekend, whether it be Irish, Fralick, or McMurray, guys, they are as dangerous of 1, 2, 3 that you're going to see in the entire SEC. I look at Auburn and say to myself, like, look, man, they struggled the last couple of years in moments and times, even though 2 years ago, guys, they hosted a regional. I know that they got beat. But even then, guys, they had young guys like Ike Irish, who was a freshman, Cooper McMurray, that was a freshman, and they still were able to host a regional. Now, last year on the mound, they really struggled. They did not do good things last year. And look, you took 2 or 3 from them, or I think you took 2 or 3 from them last year in Baton Rouge. But guys, they were a very, very young ball club the last 2 times that you faced off against the Auburn Tigers. And I look at this team and be like, man, Ike Irish has been there a long time. Fralick has been there a long time. Even a guy that's not hitting above 300, but was one of the better defensive shortstops in all of the SEC, and that being Derek Fabian. But I look at them and say, man, we faced off Auburn the last 3 years. I have literally seen Butch and company, being their head coach, develop from within. And the top 3 guys that you will see this weekend, whether it be Irish, Freilich, and McMurray, again, guys, there is as dangerous of a unit that you have seen all year. Now, I don't think that they're as dangerous as the 2, 3, 4, 5 unit that you saw when you went into Texas a couple of weeks ago. But, man, if you do not go into this series like you've been doing the last 2 series, and we'll get to this matchup with LSU versus them at the plate, if you are not consistently throwing strikes, this team will make you pay. I think the biggest thing for me when I look at Auburn this year is when I look at how many walks they have on the year. Think about this. We talked about Ike Irish, 17 walks on the year. Cooper McMurray, the big power bat. Guys, he's walked damn near 30 times already this season. So when you look at 120 plate appearances, 30 of those he's walked in. I look at Chris Rempert, who has walked 20-plus times. Guys, they see a lot of pitches. Now, in seeing a lot of pitches, like Cooper McMurray's walked 27 times, he's also struck out 32 times. So they try to be very selective in every single at-bat. They will be very selective in every single at-bat. They want to, their offensive strategy, at least to me, it feels like, they want to drag you into the deep end of the pool and then try to drown you by just over-utilizing you and letting you make the pitch, letting you play their game. And if you play their game, eventually they will wear you down. And that's how they beat you. Guys, it's exactly how they did it against Alabama last week. It's exactly what they did in all 3 of those games, well, outside of game 1, when they had the 7-run rule and they beat Alabama in that series. I mean, I look at them now. I guess I could say, I mean, look, I know that they got swept by Georgia a couple of weeks ago. And a lot of people came out of that and said, well, oh, man, this team can be beaten and be had. They lost a midweek game to UAB. After the Georgia sweep, where they went into extra innings in game 3, they lost by 3 runs on Friday. They lost by 3 runs on Saturday. Ever since that small little stretch of getting swept by Georgia and the UAB loss, which, by the way, UAB as a mid-major is one of the best mid-major programs in the country. It feels to me that they've turned it around. The last 3 games, they beat number 8 Alabama. They take 2 or 3. Again, we talked about that Friday night game because they scored 10 runs in the first one. They scored 5 runs in the second one, 7 in game 3. They have been hitting really well. And then this past midweek game that we just saw them against Georgia Tech, guys, they won in a thriller on the road 9-8 in Atlanta. I do feel that this team, I know that it's been kind of like a chaos of the last 2 weeks, but, man, they've been very dangerous. Now, Sammy Dutton's a guy that we'll talk about in a minute. He's been really prolific. I look at Auburn over last just SEC run. They took 2 or 3 from Kentucky. They won 8-7 in game 1. They won 8-7 in game 2. And extra innings, they went into 11. They lost game 3. Against Vanderbilt. Guys, Vanderbilt was the top 13 team in the country. Our top 15 team in the country. They took 2 of 3 from Vandy. So I got a situation where they take 2 or 3 from Vandy. They take 2 or 3 from Alabama. They did get swept on the road against Georgia. Competitive baseball. But, man, every single one of those games, regardless, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, regardless of that, every single one of these games, think about this, 8 runs, 13 runs, 7 runs, 6 runs, 13 runs, 10 runs. Guys, they can really swing the bat. It is predicated off of those top 3. It is predicated off of those guys that will be at the top of the lineup. And look, there's no real nowhere to really relax. Maybe Derek Fabian, right? Like maybe you look at Fabian, the shortstop. I mean, he's struggled in some moments because every single place that in their lineup, there's danger associated to it. They're 23-10 on the season. They're not the best team that you've seen all year. They're definitely not the worst. Guys, I can make the argument For what it's worth, in my humble opinion, this is the second best ball club that you've seen all year. I don't think that that's a hot take. I don't think that that's crazy to talk about. They really, I don't want to say that they scare me, but when you have a team that, number one, has really done well at the plate, and then number two, has so much experience and momentum, it's going to be interesting to see how LSU responds to that. Now, LSU was on the road last weekend in Norman. They struggled in a midweek versus Nichols. And even Jay in his postgame said, look, we're going to take tomorrow off. These guys look really worn out. They look tired. We need to get their legs up under them. And then now you're going into Auburn. How much rest? How much were they able to just sit back and say, we're going to get a little bit of rest here. We go into Auburn and we try to take care of business. I still believe, though, and we talked about this a little bit last night, but I want to emphasize this. If what you've had on the mound the last couple of weeks, and even before then with Cowan, Evans, Anderson, if you continue to perform the way that you've been performing on the mound, guys, then I have no worry. The thought that I have here is kind of like, when does the ball drop, so to speak, or when do we come back to earth a little bit here on some things that we're doing on the mound? I don't even know if that happens. You can continue to have that success, but if Anthony, if Cade, if Chase, if Cowan, if Evans, and God bless Bayou Jesus, if you find that third arm out of the pen, I do think that you can control this situation. Auburn is a team that will run a little bit. Look, Cade Ballou, who is one of the faster guys in all the SEC. If they get on base, they will move around a little bit. They're not really a team that likes to run. They like to get you in situations where they'll bunt a guy over, and then they'll try to get a base hit or a ground ball into a gap and get a run in. That they play some small ball, but man, they really got some serious power. I have faith in what you've been doing on the mound. I have faith in Cade Anderson and Zach Cowan against Sammy Dutton and the boys. I feel like that you are, from the matchup standpoint of what you'll see with Auburn at the plate versus your pitching staff, I think that you just have the overall advantage. But guys, this is baseball. Anything can happen. There is something that is telling me, though, that this series and that matchup, what you got coming out on the mound versus what they have at the plate, it is going to be a dogfight. It will be a dogfight. Guys, it's not as if that Auburn has not been tested this year. Guys, they won 2 series against ranked opponents. They got swept against Georgia, who, by the way, got swept against Texas. I don't know how you want to utilize that in your mind. Come to that own conclusion of how you will. The way that I personally see it is this. The way that I personally see it is that you have a team in Auburn that the front part of their schedule has been somewhat moderately loaded, because they're not facing off against teams that are not top 25. They're not facing off against teams that aren't in the top 15, and they broke even. They're 6-6 in the conference. I know that does not sound like, oh, well, why is Blake so worried about them? I am worried in the sense of, look, they broke even, they're dead even, and they haven't even gotten to what I would say is the lighter part of their schedule. Now, they take on you, okay, as an example, this weekend. But when I look at them, I mean, Kentucky was the only ranked team that they faced. But Kentucky was ranked. How about that? Kentucky was ranked when they faced off against them. So you got Vanderbilt that you won the series against. You have Alabama that you won the series against. You have Kentucky that you won the series against. You did get swept by Georgia. So 3 of the 4 SEC series that they face off against, guys, they've won the series. Now they got you this weekend. They go to Texas next weekend. Then they have Mississippi State, Tennessee, South Carolina. Their schedule is brutal, just like everybody else's. But they have been a very solid club. I look at them and say to myself, do not underestimate, and I was about to say overestimate. Do not underestimate this ball club. They got a lot of experience. Guys, how many at-bats is McMurray and Irish and Ballou and all of these guys seen. It's a very experienced club. I give the advantage on the mound to LSU. I give the advantage that I think that with Cowan, Evans, Anderson, Ianson, Shores, that unit will be able to win the battle with them at the plate. Now, let's move to Auburn on the mound. This is where they've gotten in trouble. So we talk about them being 6-6. And look, I should probably say this for the last part of them at the plate. What is interesting to me as I take a sip of my non-sponsored generated coffee. By the way, if you are if you're watching this special edition episode with our good friends over at Service Hawk, I am looking for a coffee sponsor. I am looking for a coffee sponsor. 7 Brew, hook your boy up. I am looking for a coffee sponsor. Anyway, I should say this. Any team that can hit, any team that is got danger at the plate, like with McMurray, Irish, Ballou, whoever it may be, you can never count out a team that's really swinging a hot bat. You can never count on a team that's been producing the amount of runs that Auburn has been producing, regardless of how they do it. I do give the edge to you on the mound. I think you can control them, and I think that you're going to be able to take this series here. I'm not going to be shocked at all if LSU takes the series or they win. I also won't be shocked if you drop a game, because I think that with all this experience that they have at the plate, that they can get one from you. They've been that talented. Let's look at Auburn on the mound. So there is a Friday night guy that you will see tomorrow that a lot of us know, and I think a lot of us don't, or even number one, don't realize that Sammy Dutton went to Auburn, or number two, we haven't been paying attention to Auburn baseball because Auburn basketball has been really good, and we haven't been focusing in on them. But Sammy Dutton is the guy that you're going to see on Friday night. In 8 starts, he has a 2.66 ERA with a 1.18 WHIP. He's 4-2 in those 8 appearances. He does have a complete game shutout that went in 7 innings, but in 44 innings pitched, has given up 42 hits, 15 runs, only allowing 10 walks with 51 strikeouts, and opponents are batting .258 against him. Look, Sammy Dutton is not the same Sammy Dutton, at least not right now, that you've seen, right? When I go and see Sammy Dutton's performances throughout the year, when we saw him a year ago, and we saw him really the last 2 years, Jay tried to get Sammy Dutton in this rotation out of the bullpen. Didn't work. It did not work. He couldn't throw strikes. He would give you one really good inning, then he'd turn around and it wouldn't be really good. And the experiment did not work with Sammy Dutton. I look at how efficient he was the Friday night against Vanderbilt. Guys, he only allowed to run. Very efficient in the outing that he had against Vanderbilt. Against Kentucky, he was hit or miss there, right? There were some times where he had some 1, 2, 3 innings. There were also some times that he really, really, really struggled. Like, I look at that Kentucky game, he went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits. They scored a lot of runs. He did get a lot of ground balls, didn't have a lot of strikeouts, but he did give up 8 hits and allow 4 runs against Kentucky in that game 1. But they were able to win that game. Sammy has been very efficient of late, though. The start that he had against Alabama, the start early that he had against Georgia until Georgia kind of started piling on him when they went through the third time in the lineup. Guys, he's got a 2.66 ERA. He's been very efficient. Very efficient. It's not the same guy that you've seen. What I've seen personally, what I saw last Friday, what I saw in that Kentucky game, and what even I saw against Georgia, you have a guy that's just, for whatever reason, under a new coaching staff, has found more of a rhythm of throwing strikes. Guys, he's going to pound the strike zone. It looks like that his quote-unquote fastball is more of a sinker. He's trying to generate ground balls early in the count. If you do not go up there and you're not aggressive against Sammy Dutton, from what we've seen so far this year, he's not going to allow a lot of walks. It's the complete opposite of what we saw from him a year ago. It is the damnedest thing. It is the craziest thing. But if an Auburn fan is listening to this, they would probably say, well, Blake, we got Sammy Dutton, and he's having a lot of success. Y'all took Chris Stanfield, and the dude's hitting 320. Chris Stanfield has been as electric as anybody, and I want to start there. So one thing about this pitching staff, I am really interested to see how Chris Stanfield reacts to going back to Auburn, playing against his former team, and a guy that has been red hot. I think this is the Sammy Dutton, Chris Stanfield Bowl, if you will, series. It's the Chris Stanfield, Sammy Dutton series. You kind of switch players here. It is what it is. How fired up are the both of those young men going to be to face off against their former team? I look at it from a LSU perspective. How fired up will Sammy Dutton be? But here's the thing that I look with Sammy Dutton that I'm very curious to see about what happens this weekend. What I'm very curious to see about what happens this weekend is no one has seen Sammy Dutton more than Jay Johnson. No one has seen Sammy Dutton more than Jared Jones and a lot of these guys, they'll be at the plate. Guys, they have gotten trouble from the mound. These 6 games that they've lost have been solely from the fact of that their pitching staff has gotten touched. How does LSU, who's a really good hitting team, react to that? I think Sammy Dutton has been really good. Look, a couple more guys that we need to keep our eyes out on. We talked about him last night. Carson Myers out of the bullpen in 11 appearances. He's been very efficient. In 25 innings in those 11 appearances, he's only allowed 22 hits, only allowed 9 earned runs, which is not that bad, man, in 25 innings pitched. Here's the thing. He's got 30 strikeouts in 25 innings, so a little bit more than strikeout. He doesn't give up a lot of hits. That's the thing, guys. The guys that have come after Sammy Dutton, they've had some really good arms out of the pen. Parker Carlson and Cam Tilley have been the 2 arms that come out of the bullpen that have been really good for me. Like, I look at Cam Tilley. His ERA is a little up, but hitters are hitting 156 against him. Against Carlson, hitters are hitting 190. The thing that Auburn has struggled with the most, Cam Tilley allowed 10 walks in 22 innings. Doesn't seem like a lot, but the reason is those hits have come on. He's been giving up some walks. Hitters have been getting after him, and he's been allowing those runs. Guys, they are not allowing a lot of hits, though. That bullpen, think about this. Of the 4 bullpen arms that you'll see this weekend, opponents are batting with Carlson, Tilley, Graves, Hetzler. Opponents are hitting 190, 156, 176, and 149 against the top 4 arms out of the bullpen for Auburn, where they have lacked in moments and times with their starting pitching. But Sammy Dutton's been efficient. They have 4 arms that are very, very competitive. Not saying that they can't be touched. They definitely got touched against Georgia, a team that you compare more to than any other team that they saw. But they don't allow a lot of hits. I think that you got to play a little bit of the Auburn game. And really, it's really just the LSU game. Take them out into deep water and drown them. You got to be able to show – they have to show you that they can throw competitive pitches. You got to be able to let them show you that they can throw strikes. Guys, I think the biggest – I say mismatch here is LSU at the plate versus this pitching staff for Auburn. I say that. And in saying that, I look at the midweek game, right, against Nichols, and I'm like, is this team a little worn down after being on the road, a lot? I think that they're going to be rested and ready to go. I think that they're going to be able to really do some good things versus this pitching staff. As my phone is absolutely blowing up. I don't even know why. Hopefully nothing bad happened. Normally when it starts blowing up, something really bad happened. No. Okay. We're recording this during a 20-minute practice session, which we'll talk about tonight for football. So yeah, look, and kind of just recapping and rolling this segment into the final part here. I give LSU a massive advantage when it comes to what they're going to do at the plate. I think that they can touch this pitching staff for Auburn. I think that Auburn on the mound does some very efficient things. You got to let them show that they can be competitive in the strike zone. I remember that game 2 against Georgia. They were actually leading in that game. Starter comes out and they couldn't throw strikes. They gave up a lot of walks and a couple of big hits by Georgia, blew that whole series open. I look at Vanderbilt, who's not a great hitting team. The opposite happened. Pitching staff, or Kentucky, pitching staff, starters were not efficient. Bullpen comes in, locks it down. Same thing could be said about what happened against Alabama last weekend. You did get a really good start from Sammy Dutton, but in that game 3, guys, they locked Alabama down. After the starter goes out, they reuse a couple of arms, and they don't allow an earned run. They win the series. They've done, and Alabama can really swing the bat too. This is an overall really solid team. Guys, this is a postseason team. This is a team that I'm not going to say is going to host a regional, but this is a team that's going to give somebody a problem if they're a 2 seed and they go in somebody else's. They are very good. They are very competitive. I think it is a bombshell of a weekend for the Tigers. I think this is, look, I'm as I'm stuttering here, but I'm cautious to say that it's going to be a heavyweight fight. But I feel as if that you're going into a series where this is going to be your 5th, 6th, 7th game on the road. It feels like it's going to be a dogfight to me. I really feel that. And look, LSU can come out, and I will admit this, LSU can come out and blow the doors off of Auburn, and it wouldn't shock me. But, man, I just think that you're going up against a solid club, and it's going to be a really good fight. But I do give LSU the nod here. I do think that you're going to take 2 of 3. Auburn is still tough. Guys, I wouldn't be – the only thing that would shock me, the only thing, either side, and I don't even know if from an LSU side that this would shock me. I wouldn't be shocked if LSU swept. I would be shocked if Auburn did. But I would be damn surprised if LSU swept. I would just be like, damn, like LSU really took it to them. You just got a really good overall team. I'm going to pick LSU to win 2 out of 3 in this series. I just think Auburn's got too much. They're going to take a game from you. You're on the road, and we'll go from there. All right. We've been over here with our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media, where they soar above the competition for all the great marketing for generator pros, HVAC, whatever you need. They will be able to deliver. ServiceHawk.io today. Let them know that Blake sent you when you reach out too. We'll see y'all soon. We'll see y'all tonight. Y'all have a good day.